let's check out my latest PSA return. Alright, what's up everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to check out, as I stated before, my most recent PSA return. It's been a little while since I got a return back. Obviously I'm submitting a little bit less frequently right now than I was during the summer. But let's go ahead and check this out. So just to preface the structure of this video, I'm probably going to show off my personal collection cards or long-term inventory first. And then we'll kind of dive into more of like the inventory side of things. So if you're interested in watching what kinds of cards I'm buying and selling, hang out till the end. But I'm going to front load it with PC cards because this is what I'm the most passionate about or looking forward to. So first and foremost, we have to start off with some bad news. Unfortunately, a really awesome card that was sent to me by Retrospect, shout out to him, did not get accepted for like holdering. I'm not really sure why, because it's an authentic card ass vending series card. Not too sure, maybe they just didn't see enough gloss on it or whatever, but they questioned its authenticity, so unfortunately they did not slab it. I might try to send it through again, but we'll just kind of see. I don't know. Kind of frustrating, but it is what it is. So anyway, still appreciate the gift, Retro, and even if it doesn't go through again or whatever, it'll still look good as the placeholder for that artwork inside my Scyther binder, which, you know, that's something I'm trying to go for as well. So let's go ahead and check out the cards that I'm going to be adding to my PC and or long-term inventory if you prefer that. But first and foremost, we have Elemental Hero Shining Flare Wingman. I've graded like 3 9s of this card and 1 10. I'm probably going to keep a 9 of this for my personal collection. I am trying to go for like all the elemental heroes that I enjoy, but I don't necessarily need all of them in 10. Like Shining Flare Wingman is not my favorite, admittedly, and something about like the foil, like it's just not super prominent or whatever. So I don't know, this card's like, it's a very key character in the GX anime, but the card doesn't really do it for me necessarily, so I'm happy with a 9. So I set this off as like a PC card or whatever, due to that. So very cool. Could have been a lot worse on that, obviously. Next up, some Scyther cards. If you don't know, I've got big news, as a matter of fact, for my Scyther master set. But yeah, I mean, I'm leveling up in the world. I'm now ranked number 4 in the Scyther master set registry, and soon to be breaking into the top 3, I think. Anyway, this battle region reverse foil, reverse hollow, it's really awesome, but these things I've probably bought, I think I bought like quantity 20 of these, and they all had just massive print lines on them. So it is what it is. I only sent one of those, and I kind of expected it to get the 9, but it's just a placeholder in my set registry, so whatever. Same thing here with the Incandescent Arcana Scyther. Obviously we got this in Crown Zenith in English. I have neither. I think I don't have either of these cards in English. For sure not the reverses graded. It's way more difficult to find like tenable copies of cards like this than you would think in English, and Japanese as well. So like these are the kind of cards that, like, yeah, I don't know. I would basically have to buy like a quantity 100 of these just to like sift through and hopefully find like some gem mint copies, and then just be stuck with all the rest for indefinite amount of time. But anyway, so not necessarily about that, but it's cool when I come across a nice one. So here's my 151 Scyther. I think that I pulled this from a pack, which is pretty cool. And as a matter of fact, I hit 10s on 2 of the regular ones, so I'll probably get rid of one. I've already submitted a request to have this added to the Scyther master set. Just haven't heard back from the set registry team quite yet, so I don't really remember which one I submitted for the set, so I'll just have to go back and check cert numbers and then sell the other one probably for whatever someone's willing to pay for a common PSA 10 Scyther. Next up, I also hit a PSA 10 on the regular Pokeball Reverse Hollow from the same set. This one I thought was interesting because it has the same type of print line as the 2 previous Scythers. I think you can kind of see it there. But just like the Incandescent Arcana and Battle Region Scyther, this one does have a pretty big print line. I sent 2 of these in. One hit the 9, and this one hit the 10. Again, not a card I'm like super passionate about, just the regular reverse foil. But this one, however, this is really cool. It looks like a PSA employee left some fingerprints on it for me. But here we actually have the Master Ball Reverse Holo for Scyther. So this is actually super cool because it's nice that I've been getting a lot of Scythers in like regular sets and stuff like that. So it's been fun to be able to add some to my binder and my set registry. However, this was the first Scyther that was actually like a fun chase. Like, luckily I only bought one. I bought one of these and sent it, and obviously it hit the PSA 10 right off the bat. So I got very lucky in terms of conditioning there. Not that this is like super low pop. I think there's like 40 of these already graded in 10, but I'm super happy to add this. This is definitely the most fun Scyther that I've been able to collect from a modern set in quite a long time. So very happy to have added that in a PSA 10. Now we're going to bounce back into the Yu-Gi-Oh side of things because I hit a PSA 10 on the Ultimate Rare Cyber Dragon. This card is absolutely ridiculous. I think that I've graded 6 or 7 copies of this. I've gotten hit with a lot of 9s and never a 10 until now. So I'm so glad that I have this. I'm not sure if this card is going to stay in my personal collection forever, but for now it's here. I'm ecstatic that I finally hit a PSA 10. With a card like this, I'm not really sure if it's that I want to own it or if it was just like the thrill of the hunt. But either way, it's here right now. I'm really happy to be holding a 10 in my hand. It legitimately feels like I accomplished something, which is nice. And then this is the card that I'm probably the most happy that I graded a PSA 10. This is the Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Rare. Again, obviously this is like this is Japanese, so in Yu-Gi-Oh we call Japanese cards OCG. Now Ancient Gear Golem is a pretty cool card just because like this giant monster reaching out at you is kind of ominous. But a couple things going for this in particular. So in addition to it looking cool, Ancient Gear Golem is a pretty prominent character in the original GX series, like season 1 of GX, because in episode 1, an early protagonist actually duels the main character using this card, and it's like just a super cool intro to the series itself. And then obviously this is the cover card of this set, The Lost Millennium, which it comes from. So those are two really cool things as going for it. And again, like I mentioned with the Cyber Dragon, where there's like a thrill of the hunt, this card, just finding a decent looking raw copy was super difficult. Like they just were not popping up very often. And so I found this one. I think that it was listed pretty high for a Japanese Ultimate Rare. I want to say it was like $50 or something. But at the time, Mercari Japan was using like that, or they were running like a 20% off discount. So I was able to secure it for a little bit less. So I took the chance on it. Obviously hit the PSA 10 my first go, which is super lucky, because grading these Japanese Ultimate Rares has not historically been super easy. So those are the cards that I'm going to be withholding for my PC. Super stoked about all of them. I'm going to go ahead and set these to the side, and we'll dive into some inventory. Alright, so I did go ahead and front load the video with some of the PC cards that I got, but in terms of inventory stuff, I think that I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to save the best stuff for last at this point in the video, just because, you know, it would be nice to think that that would increase retention, but I feel like the people who watch my videos are just here for them in general, so it is what it is. But let's go ahead and check out what I consider to be the failed grades. So right off the bat, we have a Charizard and Breaksin GX, which absolutely stinks that this got the PSA 9, because it's a truly spectacular looking card. It's no secret that in Pokemon, the Japanese foiling is far superior in most cases to the English counterpart. I really thought that this card was going to be a slam dunk PSA 10. Obviously, PSA saw something that made them disagree. Not too sure if I'm going to keep this in its 9 state or if I'm going to try to resubmit it. Because, you know, it's just it's a well-centered card with no whitening, so getting a PSA 9 just kind of hurts, if I'm being honest, but I'm not going to throw a fit about it or anything. Next up, another failed grade, so we got Blaine's Last Stand in a PSA 9. Again, we have a decently centered card. Obviously, it's a little bit off side to side, but again, no whitening, so there's definitely a world where this could have been a PSA 10 as well. The texture on this is absolutely insane. Obviously, Blaine being like the 7th gym leader in the Kanto region, focusing on fire-type Pokemon. He's got like fire going on in the background, which looks absolutely insane. So no waifu tax on that because he's a bald old guy, but the card itself is really sick. So I thought that one was worth sending for sure. Won't be the last time you see this card today, but I did hit a PSA 9 on just one of the copies that I sent in, so I'll probably get wrecked on that and sell it for below grading fees, but it is what it is. Here is the PSA 9 Pokeball Reverse Holo that I mentioned earlier that I graded. Obviously, I'm keeping the 10 but selling the 9. Again, I'll probably be selling that for below the cost of grading, given my luck, or given the current market, I guess. Probably appropriately valuing something like that. Here we have a Remix Bout Blastoise and Piplup GX Altart. This got a PSA 6. That really stinks, so there must be some kind of like impression or something that I overlooked. But again, I'm grading a fair amount of cards, so I don't know. This is just something that I'll be able to kind of move without worrying too much about it, but it does stink that it's not a PSA 10. But yeah, cool card, hit a PSA 6. Again, that's probably one that'll just sell for the cost of raw or maybe slightly less. This one really stinks. A Celebrations Fanfare, I hit a PSA 7. Again, we're looking at a really well-centered card with no whitening. The fact that it got docked to a 7 means I must have missed some kind of like impression or pinhole. I've noticed that in Yu-Gi-Oh! PSA is a little bit more forgiving with like those pinhole impressions, because those happen a lot of times, like, and I guess at the factory, but the argument could be made in Pokemon the same thing happens. But anyway, I've seen like PSA 9s and 10s of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards with those pinhole dents a lot, but PSA seems pretty keen on docking the Pokemon cards for them. So again, I'm not really seeing anything on the back, which is where I would have expected to see that kind of damage. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're on the lookout, let me know if I'm missing anything here. I feel like I was pretty thorough on that. But anyway, it's a Celebrations Fanfare. This used to be called Player Ceremony. It's a relatively limited promo release. Not anything necessarily like to write home about. Like, it's not 1,000 copies or anything like that. Like, there's probably quite a bit more than that. But it's a cool promo with a slightly limited release. Here I just sent off some Heart Gold and Reviving Legends type cards. So basically Heart Gold, Soul Silver, but in Japanese. I got a PSA 9 on the Feraligatr, but it's still a pretty cool looking card. Reaching across. Sorry, I know I'm reaching across the screen a lot. I'll go ahead and adjust that before I move on too much longer. But here I hit a PSA 9 on the Jolteon from Reviving Legends. Really cool artwork. Obviously in the Reviving Legends series, whenever they had a Pokemon that evolved with like evolution stones, they would throw one into the artwork as though this thing had just recently evolved. Really cool touch. But yeah, so unfortunately hit the 9 on that. Got absolutely toasted on this Charmeleon from Tag Bowl, a PSA 8. That's pretty lame. Again, we're looking at a decently well-centered card with no whitening, so there must be like the ever so slightest like impression, and maybe they didn't want to dock it to like a 6 for that. But yeah, an 8 seems weird, but it is what it is. Sometimes you just have to take small L's and move on. And then similar situation with this Sleepy Squirtle. We hit the 9 on it. I don't know. It is what it is. I feel like this is obviously anecdotal, but this is a much higher like fail stack than what I typically get, because I'm a pretty conservative pre-grader in my opinion. But yeah, I mean this submission was 55 cards, and for us to have this many failures, yeah, kind of hurts, but no big deal. Obviously, we're still going to be positioned well for the submission overall. So I'm going to go ahead and move into some of the bulkier cards. So I did grade a good amount of these in PSA 10. Obviously, this is just the same card over and over again, trying to fill out some quantity type cards. I believe that these are selling for like $35 in a PSA 10, so like the margin's not massive. It's like maybe $5 net, but you know what, like if you can net $5 off of a card you spent $2 on, and then just grading fees and shipping and stuff, whatever, it's good repeatable business, I suppose. Obviously there's like cards that elicit a greater margin than this one, but that's just one that I decided to make a play on and probably won't be revisiting it. Now, for the rest of the bulkier stuff, and we're kind of getting into the better cards now, so I did grade a bunch more of these Tag Bolt commons. I just had them laying around because I ripped a bunch of Tag Bolt a few years ago. So obviously we've got a few Charmeleons. I'm wondering how those are going to sell. But we've also got some of the War Turtle, which is like a fine artwork. I think that War Turtle is a little bit more popular than Charmeleon. People really don't like Charmeleon too much, if I'm being honest. So I was actually not super certain if I was going to send those stage 2 evolutions, but I ended up obviously going for it. This Squirtle artwork is so cute. I love how this little guy's just like posted up on a rock and taking a snooze. So I think that card will do pretty well. And then this one is its alternate artwork. Obviously not like an official alt art or whatever, because it's just a common, but we do have the different Squirtle artwork from the same exact set. This one's a little bit more whimsical, so that one's also pretty cool, and I think I hit 3 of those in PSA 10. Yep. And then to end off the Tag Bolt cards, we have 2 copies of the Charmander. There's also an alternate artwork for this Charmander, but I don't think I graded any of those. I think I only had 1 laying around, and it did have a white speck on the back, so I didn't even risk sending it. So really, this is the better Charmander anyways, if I'm being completely honest. So having that kind of card in PSA 10 is going to be nice, because I think that people, for sure on the Stage 1 starters, like, I think that people will be willing to pay like 40 or 50 bucks for PSA 10s of those. Not so sure about the Stage 2, but it is what it is. If I just set them as buy now, they'll either move or not, and I'll adjust pricing accordingly. So not too worried about it, but time to get into the stack of the good stuff. So I'll go ahead and set this over here, and we'll pull from it so I don't have to reach across the screen. So first and foremost, in the win pile, we have a PSA 1 Pikachu from base set Unlimited. Obviously, PSA designates it as Yellow Cheeks, which is funny because if you know anything about Unlimited, they're all Yellow Cheeks. So there's no Red Cheeks variant in Unlimited. But just to show you kind of what a PSA 1 looks like, it's pretty gross. This is actually a card that came from a friend of mine's childhood collection that I purchased a few years back. And this is just a card that I had kicking around or whatever, so I decided to slab it up, and it did hit that PSA 1, so kind of interesting there. Following suit with the Tag Team Rainbow Rares, I hit a Lucario and Melmetal GX, which has a pretty cool texture. Obviously, Lucario is relatively popular, but Melmetal, much less so, I'll say. Definitely not very many people's favorite. And then we have the Togepi, Cleffa, and Igglybuff GX. Ultra rare, or hyper rare, I guess. The stars in the background is pretty cool. The alt art of this is clearly, the alt art of all the Rainbow Rares outperform them, but I think that the Rainbow Rare Tag Team cards are pretty special as well. Not necessarily banking on them like 10xing in price or anything like that, but there's good margin to be hit on the cards like this, so pretty happy with that at the end of the day. Here's a Master Ball reverse foil that I actually pulled from my Japanese 151 boxes upon release. So we have the Moltres. I was super surprised to see that this is like a $115 card in PSA 10. So that's pretty cool, and I think I actually uploaded those before I got the submission back. Same thing here with the Squirtle. It's like a $115 card. I definitely uploaded these onto my eBay store before I even got the submissions back. Squirtle's kind of cool because there's a Master Ball covering his face. So as I shine it, you can kind of see that the Master Ball covers his head perfectly. I wonder, I should probably have shown that off in the listings if I'm being honest, because I'm sure that someone will think that's cool. But anywho, kind of a neat card there. Here we have a PSA 10 Ampharos from Heart Gold. Ampharos is, it always surprises me, like there are a ton more people that love Ampharos than what I would ever give it credit for. Not to say that it's a bad Pokemon or anything like that, like I don't think it's a flawed design. Obviously you have like the whole lore from Gen 2 with the lighthouse. But yeah, Ampharos is just a super popular Pokemon, and it usually sells a little bit better than I give it credit for. I was super happy to see this card graded PSA 10. We have the Reviving Legends Vaporeon. Obviously, again, as I mentioned with the Evolution Stone, we have the Water Stone in the background, so that's pretty special. Again, I feel like this is a card that someone would probably be willing to pay like $50 to $70 for if I had to guess just off the top of my head. Next up, we have a Tidal Storm Swampert. So again, going with some Japanese cards. I don't think that, really, other than that Pikachu, I don't think that there's any English Pokemon in this submission, if I'm being totally honest. But yeah, the Swampert's pretty cool. I got this card for free when I purchased some other card, I think. So pretty cool that it was able to hit a PSA 10, because that'll be beneficial. And then here we have a White Kyurem from Legendary Shining Collection, or Legendary Shine Collection, sorry. Really cool card. I feel like these like pseudo full arts with the like checker crosshash pattern, these are like not on everyone's radar, but they're absolutely stunning cards if you have them in person. I actually graded the Reshiram and sold it at Charlotte Collecticon not too long ago, so obviously Kyurem's not quite as popular as Reshiram, but really cool card nonetheless. All right, getting into our last couple of cards. Here we have a Mega Venusaur EX. Again, I think this was just a card that I got for free. It ended up being super clean, so I sent it off for grading, and we hit the PSA 10. I'd probably guess that that's probably like a $40 or $50 card in 10, but for free, that's not too bad. And then here we have the Best of XY Espeon EX. I was talking to someone at Charlotte Collecticon about the Best of XY. Was it Gengar's Den or Panga? No, not Panga. I don't know. I feel like it might have been Gengar's Den. Maybe it was Panga. Anyway, comment down below, please, if I was talking to you about the Best of XY at Charlotte Collecticon. But yeah, really cool set. I pick up some of the cards here and there when I can. But this Espeon was a little bit too good to be true. I think I paid like $10 for it. Obviously hitting a PSA 10. If I had to guess, it'd be a little over $100. But super cool card there. Again, when stuff like that pops up, like as you can kind of see from this submission, I'm shifting away from like the one-off cards and more into like what I can sell in mass quantity. This submission was definitely like the trial run of that to see if it's something I wanted to do, and then a couple of small CGC submissions in the interim following suit. But yeah, I think that is the type of business that I'm going to start leaning a little bit more towards instead of just one-off cards like this. Whereas like this Wild Blaze Charizard, like, man, this is a card that I paid $40 or $50 for. I'm pretty confident I could sell it between $225 and $250. So it's just these one-off cards can potentially carry such a great margin, but just the repeatability of it is a massive limiting factor, obviously. When we talk about some of the people who are reselling that are like more like whales, so to speak, like they have a lot more money and maybe less time than someone like me necessarily. I have the ability to be patient and wait for these one-off type cards to hit crazy margins on. But again, just the repeatability, like, am I wasting time by waiting around for something like this versus just like grading repeatable cards that I can hit a consistent margin on and churn several times before something else like this would pop up again? That's kind of like the dilemma that I have going on in my brain. But anyways, this is a super cool card. I'm glad to have graded it. And now for the last card to wave you farewell. Here we have the Blastoise and Piplup GX, the redemption round. We did end up hitting a PSA 10 of this as well as a 6. So really awesome card. I think I was picking this up for like $100. At the time I was buying them raw, the PSA 10s were selling for $400 or so. Japanese cards were really popping off, as well as the Sun and Moon alt arts. So it was like the perfect storm. Obviously, both of those things have cooled down just a touch since then. So I think this card is closer to like the $250 range. But again, like a 2.5 times multiplier just for putting it in plastic is not too shabby. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hit the outro. All in all, I would have to call that submission a success, although it was definitely one of the more wishy-washy subs that I've had in quite a few months. So it's interesting to see how, you just win some and you lose some. At the end of the day, we could point fingers and try to say that there's some kind of speculative, pop control or what have you, or just the grader was having a bad day. But at the end of the day, the law of averages are at play. There's plenty of submissions that I crush on, and so there have to be submissions like this one too, where some of the cards I was a little bit hopeful for end up getting stiffed with low grades. So again, you win some, you lose some. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I appreciate all of you for watching, and I sincerely hope to see you on the next one.